All right, so welcome to an Academy Engage session. This is where we get a chance to reorientate, make sure we're on track and get ourselves set up and planned for the week so we know what we're doing. And what I wanted to do before we kick off and take you through the exercise, just make sure you've got a pen and paper handy because we'll be doing a couple of written exercises today. So just make sure you've got a pen and paper or iPad or something where you're actually physically writing. And the reason we always do that is because we know the science says is when we actually write stuff as opposed to type stuff, it sticks more. So we want to give ourselves every possible advantage to implement what we need to implement during the week. So that's why I get people to write things down in exercises. You know, so much of what we try to do here in the Academy is figure out how you work and the best possible practices for working as well and implement those incrementally on a weekly basis. So you see on the screen here, I've got make things easy. And it was interesting. I was continuing reading this excellent book called Making It Stick, which is some of the latest research on how to get positive habits and positive actions to stick. And when you think about what you're doing with your academy business, when you're creating an online business, that's really what we want to do. We want to form a habit around it, something where you enjoy doing your academy work, because for everybody on the academy, well, not everybody, but for most people, it's not the online business is not their full-time thing. They're making that transition, and the academy is designed for people who are making that transition. And so anything that we can do to make this a positive habit is vital, right? It's very important. We don't have to, build ourselves up to watch our favorite TV show. We don't have to build ourselves up to eat our favorite food. We don't have to build ourselves up to play our favorite computer game or read our favorite book, right? These are things that we enjoy doing. And when you look at what, the fundamental thing that's involved with all of those activities is a release of, if you get down to the most basic element of it, it's a neurochemical reaction in your head. And any pleasurable activity involves the release of dopamine. And as we've been talking about with a lot of a theme here in the Academy this month, which is talking about expectation, because it's one of the latest research in science shows that one of the things that is crucial in terms of this release of dopamine, which if you do an activity where you have a release of dopamine, you're more likely to do it again. It becomes a habit, right? That's the chemical process. Now, one of the things, though, and this is, as we've been discussing all through this month, is that when it comes to expectation is a crucial factor in the release of dopamine. Now, what does that mean? It means that when we set our expectations, and unfortunately as entrepreneurs, given the environment that we're in, we typically set our expectations incredibly high. So, if you look at the level of, dreams or the future things, people, we're bombarded with images of people on Facebook on their private jets or on their fancy boats or on their exotic holidays. It was actually interesting. I was reading an article during the week where in Russia, they're actually making a lot of money with private jets, hiring out private jets while they're still on the ground so people can take their photos for Instagram on the thing. So you can pay like $30 to spend 10 minutes in a private jet and you can take all your Instagram photos. So it's hilarious. So there you go. We can all get on our private jet. So but that's sort of like the dream level. And then our goal level is our expectation of what we can do, over the course of the next year and over the course of the next 90 days. And in the course of the Academy, our objective is to get to $10,000 a month in revenue. That's what we want to aim for. That's realistic. If you put the work in, it's a realistic goal to get to. But still, even though, even looking at that, if that's still an expectation compared to where we start out, when we, metaphorically speaking, haven't even picked up the violin or picked up the flute, we've still got that small level of expectation. And our skill levels here compared to it needs to be here in terms of our expectation level, right? So often what will happen, and this is the thing, and here's the key, why do I keep speaking about this, is because if we do not meet our expectation with a certain activity, there can be no release of dopamine. It's that simple, right? So, and this is weird, right? Because as entrepreneurs, when you think, oh, okay, yeah, because we do experiments all the time and we fail, that is why we don't get pleasure out of the activity because we fail. No, that's not the case at all. Let me give you the canonical example. If you play computer games, something that I love doing, you fail all the time. Like, it's literally part of the game to fail, right? If we operated computer games like a lot of people operate their entrepreneurial online business that they're trying to start, like hundreds of thousands of challenges over the years have done, they would die the first time in a computer game. They would literally pick up their Xbox or their PlayStation and throw it out the window and never play a computer game again because they failed, right? And that's because it seems crazy and insane, right? Why do we do that? And it's expectation, right? It's expectation. When we play a computer game, we expect to fail. When we go to our tennis lessons, we don't expect to play like Roger Federer, right? So we can have fun in our tennis lesson because our expectation is here, and we hit a couple of good shots. It's like when you play golf, you hit a couple of good shots. We don't expect to be, can't use Tiger, Jack Nicklaus. You can't expect it. You don't walk out onto the field to expect to be that. You just expect, if I hit a couple of good shots, that's good. So you hit a couple of good shots, your expectations are met, boom, dopamine release. So that's the thing, right? Our trouble is the biggest problem for entrepreneurs is they do work on their business on a weekly basis, but because of where their expectations are set, right, because of where your expectations are set, because you're thinking about the $10,000 a month, or you're thinking about that, or let's bring it down to the micro level. Number of members of the academy are doing opt-in tests, for their webinars, and they're not, a successful opt-in test for traffic for Facebook is above a 30% increment. So if their expectations at 30% and they have a unsuccessful test where they say only get 4% opt-in, then their expectation is not met. There is no dopamine release for a pleasurable activity. And so it makes it very hard for you to do things. It's very hard to make that habitual. Whereas over, 2 decades of doing this, I realized that it can take 10, 15 goes for something before you get the result. To me, doing opt-in webinar tests, for example, is like playing a computer game. That's the way that I've set it up in my head. So I realize I'm going to die most of the time. I'm going to fail most of the time, right? And that is how you get things habitual. And it could be, let's use another classic example, writing. When you write something, here's the rule of thumb. When you write anything, blog article, Facebook post, video, whatever it is, your first draft will suck. It will be terrible. I can guarantee it. How can I say that? Because Stephen King's first draft sucks. Gary Halbert's first draft sucks, right? Because what you're seeing is their end edited product. And you're setting your expectation at Gary Halbert's completed copy letter or Stephen King's finished novel, which has gone through literally 15 or 16 editing iterations to your first draft. Hence, expectation not met, no dopamine release, Your brain says unpleasurable activity will not make this a habit. It's that simple. So expectations is vital and crucial. However, in order to get something to be at that correct expectation level, what we do here in the academy is we try to chunk things down, right? So we have things called the CFT, critical focus time, where we're bringing our expectations down to, okay, we're going to just have this 50-minute period. And people typically on their way to $10,000 a month, when they're working, doing a full-time job, you spend, 1 to 2, you've probably got 1 to 4, maybe 5 CFTs that you can do. CFTs, critical focus times, 50-minute sessions. And that's all you need to start off. You can actually get a great result with that level of thing. And that's already an expectation change. It's funny. When new people start the academy, they first start saying, oh, I'm going to do 15 CFTs this week. I'm going to do 20 CFTs this week. And, we let them have a go at it because we know the expectations will need to be lowered. Because here's the thing, I do this full time. My world record for CFTs is like 16 in a week. And ironically, it seems to be every second week after January when I get back from holidays, right, is where I really power through. But here's the thing, the most productive shipping people on the planet, the people who turn out the books, the music, the thing, when they're creating, when they are building something, when they're creating something to ship it, have 2 to 3, maybe CFTs a day. And maybe if they're on at the end of a launch, and this is something we've learned in the academy, right? Yeah, sometimes you can do all in efforts. You can do, when you're heading towards a launch, you can have days where you are working flat out to get to that deadline. But then what we also know is that you have to have massive recharge periods after that. You can't maintain that effort at all times. So again, expectation setting, if we can get you doing 1 or 2 CFTs a week, then when you do those 2 CFTs, your expectations are met, you have a dopamine release, and it can become a habit, which makes it easier to do. It makes it more fun to do. But here's the interesting thing, and this comes back to this making it stick. When you look at any activity, what does easy actually mean? Have we ever thought about this? What makes an activity easy as opposed to something that is hard? Well, as it turns out, there are 3 things. There are 3 filters that we need to look at when we are looking at a task to determine how easy that is. We can actually determine in advance how easy or hard that activity is. And for most people, they haven't even thought of this, right? And if we can determine in advance what or how easy this activity is, then guess what? When we're planning, when we're setting our expectations, when we're creating what we're going to do in these 50-minute periods, these critical focus times, CFTs, then we can check against our easy criteria to see how easy the task is going to be. And if one of these criteria is missing, then guess what? We can do something about it. So what I'm going to go through are these 3 easy criteria. What are the 3 actual criteria that we use? So the first criteria for easy is your control of the environment. Okay. Now, so you see here is a relatively cleanish desk, for example, right? So you think, oh, Ed's going to give me a lecture about cleaning up my office or desk. No, because here's the thing. We know, because in the academy, we do a Colby index when people start. That is, it's not an emotional test. It's not an IQ test. It's a test of how you act. And as entrepreneurs, we're very rare. If you're watching this, you're an extremely rare person. 5% of the planet has the entrepreneurial makeup, right, to be able to be or be even interested in being an entrepreneur. Having said that, of that 5%, there are very different entrepreneurial types. And if you are a high quick start like me, and you try to keep your office clean, you will be miserable. It's just not in your nature. It's just not something you can do. And by trying to keep your office clean or fretting about keeping your office clean, you will actually you will burn through that entrepreneurial willpower, and you'll burn through that energy, and you will not have the energy required for those creative activities. However, if you're a high fact finder, this is a couple of people saying on the here, mine's pretty messy right now. If you're a high fact finder, right, and a low quick start, then it's the opposite. You need a cleaner environment, and it actually helps you, right? But that's one example of where controlling the environment. When you let's give you another example. If you are going to be doing some, I don't know, well, let's do a ridiculous one. If you are going to be working on your Facebook advertising campaign and you don't have your computer or an internet connection, then you're not going to be able to do that exercise, right? Because you need to log on to get to work on your Facebook campaign, right? It makes no sense. If you're going to plan your week with your Scrum board and you don't have your Scrum board set up, then that's a huge problem. Or, for example, if you're if you're that high quick start and you don't have a visual Scrum board, which is a way of organizing for entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurs typically can't use to-do lists unless you're a high fact finder, high follow through, then you are not going to be as organized as you possibly can be, right? So you're not going to be efficient. So for me, control, and the other thing about high quick starts is that they need, for example, a little bit of uncertainty, a little bit of spice in their environment. So going and working in a coffee shop is something that I like doing, for example, and I like going to different coffee shops. I live in Melbourne, so we've got amazing coffee shops that we can work with. We can improve our environment. We can make our environment better. If for example, and this is not everybody, in fact, this is horrible advice for about 30% of you, I like, when I'm writing, to listen to music, and I've got a writing playlist, and it makes me feel better. I enjoy it more, so changing your environment can, for some people, be a real positive. But for other entrepreneurs, changing your environment is the worst thing that you can do, right? So understand, one thing that will make your task easy is controlling the environment. Again, to take it out of the world of business, a dojo, when you go to learn martial arts, is set up for you to be totally focused on learning the martial art, from the routine, the rituals for getting started, for the uniform, for the tatami mats, the whole thing. The environment is created to be excellent over literally hundreds, if not thousands of years, to learn martial arts. When you go to your music teachers, the environment where you learn for your music lesson is there. When you go to play, think about easy activities, things that you love doing. Your iPhone is always in reach for a quick game of Clash Royale. Your Xbox is in your lounge room. You're nice and comfortable. You've got a great environment to play your computer game, right? It's not so much fun playing a computer game and driving. In fact, that's a horrible idea, and it's incredibly dangerous. So our first easy is controlling our environment. So that's not something you'd typically think about when you're doing a task, right? Is it? Am I doing this in the optimum environment for me, right? And so that is a filter that we can apply to when we're creating our CFTs. If we're finding things difficult, environment can be one of the elements that makes something that could be easy harder. Okay, so that's number one. Our second one, and this is something that we are constantly on about in the academy is limiting choices. When you have too many choices, that makes an activity harder. Again, to keep going on our metaphor of things that people have been learning for hundreds of years. So if you go to a violin lesson, you don't, particularly when you rock up for your first one, the teacher doesn't go to you, okay, we could do this, or we could do this, or we could do this, or we could do this, right? If you go to a Suzuki teacher, you're going to be learning the first 4 notes to Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star and how to hold your bow, right? That's it, right? That's what you're going to be learning in that first week, and you're going to get encouraged. And then when you come back the next week and you can move your bow up and down, sounds horrible, by the way, it's like cat dying, but as long as you can hold the bow the right way, you have reached expectation, dopamine hit, you're back for the next lesson, right? And a bad teacher doesn't do that, right? So because you are super limited on what you can do, it makes the activity easier. Now, this goes completely against what most people think, right? Most people think that when they do an activity, or when they want to be creative, they think, oh, I want to have as many choices as possible. And it's not the case. The entire CFT process, the entire thing of calling how many 50-minute segments are you going to schedule yourself for the week? How are we going to write the CFT up? So, and we're going to do that in a minute. So you'll see exactly how this is all comes together and how this is all done. So you'll be able to work along with me and do it. Then what you're able to do is the whole part of CFT is about limiting choices, because what's the biggest thing an entrepreneur does, right? The biggest problem, the biggest challenge that an entrepreneur has, particularly when they're starting out or they're trying to restart, is they get to their computer, they may have said, right, I'm going to do 50 minutes, and they go, oh, what am I going to do? And before you know it, has this ever happened to you? Before you know it, you're off watching, The Voice videos of talented singers or some sort of YouTube black hole, right? That's where you're going to get to, right? So by knowing that, okay, I've got my 50 minutes, and you pull off that Post-it note and you go, right, that's what I've got to do. You have limited your choices. It makes it easy. When you pop in your computer game cartridge, oh, that's showing my age, when you download, when you turn on your Xbox or your PS4, right, and go to play, Super Mario Kart, then you're only expecting to see Super Mario Kart. You're not expecting to see some other thing. Imagine if every time you turn on your computer game system, you had to choose, and if you only have 10 minutes, why is computer gaming taken off on your iPhone? Because you can quickly pick something and you can play something in 3 minutes, and you give yourself a dopamine hit like that. Becomes a habitual thing. Why do we keep picking up our phones? Because we're giving ourselves Twitter dopamine hits, Facebook dopamine hits, right? The entire mobile existence is about that. But we know what we're doing, right? So when we open Candy Crush, we know what to expect. That's the thing with limiting choices. But let me give you an example, like a real obvious example where this applies to people, particularly when they're starting out researching a market, and that is indeed research. So one thing that you could do when you're doing research, and this is something that we do in the Academy all the time, is we say, okay, because if we're trying to research the pains, gains, and jobs to be done for a market, then often we can't say that we're going to nail all the pains, gains, and jobs to be done in one 50-minute session. So what we do to try make that, give ourselves a win, give ourselves a dopamine hit, is to judge our objective of research by time, right? So as long as we do 50 minutes of research, we have successfully completed that task. Boom. And we may have 3 or 4, Post-it notes of 50-minute sessions for researching pains, gains, jobs to be done. So let's apply the easy filter though. If you, as a lot of people do, just write, I'm going to do 50 minutes of research on pains, gains, and jobs to be done for my market, well, there's a problem with that if we apply the easy filter of limiting choices. Because where are you going to research? right? Where are you going? Are you going to go into Google? Are you going to do Facebook groups? Are you going to look at Amazon reviews? What are you going to do? Where are you going to be? So if we apply the easy filter of limiting choices to our CFT creation, and as a reminder, we're going to do that CFT creation in just a minute, then guess what? What if we modify that ticket and we say, we're going to spend 50 minutes looking at this Facebook group for pains, gains, and jobs to be done in my market? Or we're going to spend 50 minutes looking at Amazon reviews. We've limited our choices, so we've made the task by definition easier. So we've got, so far, we've got controlling our environment and we've got limiting choices. So next and final step, and this one I think impacts a lot of people. In order to make something easy, we need to have a map, right? We need to have a roadmap. So if we've got our environment under control and we've limited our choices, but say we don't know what we're looking for with pains, gains, and jobs to be done, to use our previous example, if we don't know specific, what does pains, gains, and jobs to be mean? We don't have a map. Right? We have no map. If I'm trying to create a Facebook ad campaign and I've never done it before, and I have on my activity, so I've got set up my Facebook ad campaign and I've never done that before, then I don't have a map for the session, right? I don't know what I'm going to be doing. I don't have a checklist. I don't have a step-by-step guide. I have no way of knowing how to do the thing that I'm doing. Guess what? You've automatically moved from easy to hard. If I've got a map, and the more detailed the map, or the more often, sometimes detailed maps are just as bad as having no map, right? So for example, if you just need the information that you need for completing that CFT, right? You don't need anything more. So, you might have an incredible Facebook course, right? You may have this incredible thing. It's got everything in it to do it. It's the Encyclopedia Britannica of Facebook advertising. But if you don't know which particular chapter of which particular module and which checklist to use for this particular exercise, then you don't have a map for the session. And hence the easy meter will go from super easy to super hard. It'll peg, right? And and why is this so insidious? Because guess what? Our expectations are that we will have made progress on our Facebook ad campaign. But because we didn't have a map, we're floundering. And how many times have you done a tech exercise where this has happened, right? And you're floundering. So the whole job of the academy, right? The thing of what we do in the academy is it's all about restricting and making sure you've got the right roadmap at the right time, with just the information you need. Just the information you need. So imagine if you were using your GPS and you said, you were talking to Siri and you said, take me to catchment players rehearsal or whatever. And she started constantly giving you the entire list of instructions, right? How helpful would that be? Wouldn't be helpful at all. All you need, well, it'd be some help, right? But how hard is it, right? You're trying to remember, I just need to know what my next turn is. That's where we need to be set up. As long as we know what our next turn is, then, and let's face it, even when we know our next turn, do you sometimes make the wrong turn? Do you go down a street one turn too early or too late? It happens, right? Doesn't mean we're perfect, but it certainly makes it a heck of a lot easier. So having the right roadmap is the third criteria of making something easy. So environment, making sure we've got the right tools, making sure our environment is set up. And remember, tools are the environment, making sure we've got the right tools for the job. Don't use a screwdriver for a hammer job and so on and so forth. Making sure we've limited our choices so that we know specifically where we need to go. Imagine if you try to fill out your GPS and you say to your GPS, oh, I think I want to go here, or do I want to go here, or do I want to go here? How is a GPS possibly going to work in that circumstance? Can't, right? you need to say you want to go here first, choice limitation. And then it makes sense. And then, of course, we need the map. We need the step-by-steps. So audience participation type. Of those three things, I'd just like you to pop in the chat window or the comments below, what is, for you, of the three easy factors, which one of those do you think is the one where you would like to focus on to improve on? So is it roadmap, controlling the environment, and limiting choices? What's the challenge for you? Just pop it in the chat window. And let's have a look. So we've got limit choices, roadmap, limit choices. So roadmap, cool, right? Then that makes sense for entrepreneurs, right? These are the things. And imagine if we can apply these filters to the activity. So if we look at the next week and we say, we've got 2 50-minute sessions, like when you're starting out, and think about this, this is one of the reasons I created the Academy, was that people were watching these people in their private planes on Facebook and their exotic locales and everything. And they were comparing somebody who was full-time, who'd been in the game for literally decades, right? By now, they're getting old, right? And they're comparing them to there now to where they started, or to where you start, right? So where I started, I was working full time and I was eking out. When I started, I was doing my business on the side, and I would do one or the equivalent of 1 or 2 sessions a week. Doesn't matter who you look at, they were all the same. They were all working for somebody else, and then they transitioned. And unfortunately, because we compare our expectation is how they're going now, then this is where the problem hits, right? Richard Branson, people look at Richard Branson all the time, as you should, as an incredibly successful entrepreneur with over his fingers in over 400 pies. And I point out that, he didn't make, his first 2 business ventures were absolute failures. He had to spend a day in jail because of dodging tax. And he didn't make a single pound for 6 years. And his first 2 business ventures were complete disasters. He had a lot of fun, but they were disasters from a business perspective. He didn't make a pound. So, pardon me. So from that perspective, when you should be comparing when people started out, and that's part of what we've created the Academy for, is making sure that your expectations are set for somebody who's starting out. You don't go to your first violin lesson and they say, okay, I want you to perform all the first book of Suzuki songs for your Suzuki graduation next week. Nobody would come back for the second lesson. Their expectations have been completely destroyed. Right? They've been set too high, and so they will fail. That's how it works. Okay. So now we're going to do this. So one of the things, the exercises that we do in the Academy on a semi-regular basis, is we do a retrospective, which is a concept of Agile. So much of what we do in the Academy is the product of Agile development, which was originally created in the Toyota production system, which Toyota discovered and implemented, which was then transferred to software and is now taking the whole business world. And when you apply it entrepreneurially, it's amazing. It's like a bomb going off. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going through a number of steps to focus and create your CFTs for the week. So if you've got 1 or 2 things, then that's what, if you've got like a beginning violinist, or if you're playing football for the first time, you go to 1 to 2 practices a week. Same when you should be starting your business. Now, Academy members who've been at it for longer, they may do 5 CFTs a week. They may do 8 CFTs a week. Okay, so I'm going to give you a minute here to just jot down, pardon me, what is the focus for this week, and what project are you working on? What's the project you're working on? And what are the number of CFTs that you have locked in for the week. Okay, so what's the project you're going to do? So, for example, I'm going to launch my Facebook ad campaign and the number of CFTs. So I just want you to pop that in the chat window or write it down on paper first, right? Write it down on paper first. And then when you're done, just pop it on the chat window. All right, I'll just give you 30 seconds just to pop that in and then pop it in the chat window. Set a time of 30 seconds. So what your project is and how many sessions you're going to do. So market research, 2 CFTs, very good. 5 CFTs, awesome. Sign up rate move towards 30%. Cool. Excellent. Okay. Prototyping, 6 CFTs, 2 CFTs. Cool. Okay. So now what I want you to do, I'll give you a couple of minutes to do one of two things. I just want you to jot down either where you're stuck, okay, in the process, or if you're not stuck, what's the next step, okay? So where you're stuck or what's your next step, right? So you might have got a bit of a roadblock, you're not sure how to solve it, or you know what you're doing and you got a next step. Either are totally legit, but I just want you to, again, write down on pen and paper first what your next step is or where you're stuck. Make sure you write it down, very important. And then at the end of the 2 minutes, just pop it in the chat window, so we can share those. All right, let's do it. So here we go. 2 minutes. Set a timer for 2 minutes. So we're going, okay, here's my next steps that I need to do, or, oh, I'm stuck here. Here's where I'm stuck. And once you've written those down, if you pop them in the chat windows or the comment box, that'd be awesome. Okay, so we've got next step, setting up Facebook tracking ads, test different headlines, prototype the rest of the collection, map out content for weekly newsletter. Cool, keep going. Got 24 seconds. Okay, and we're done. And what we're going to show you here is a pretty amazing way, even when you don't have access to somebody, how you can go and problem solve. So understand how to use ClickFunnels and use it. Where do my target market hang out? Research. Map out, create a lead magnet on Sage Report. Excellent. All right. So here's our next step. So what I want you to do is I'm going to give you another 2 minutes, and then I just want you to write on pen and paper possible solutions. Okay, so possible or next steps. What are, break it down. What are literally the micro steps for what you need to do? So if we've got map out content for weekly newsletter, how do you map out the content for the newsletter? Literally. So for me, if it was me, I'd do a 10-minute free writing exercise. That's the first thing, where I just set a time for 10 minutes and I just write. I don't allow my pen to stop, right, on the subject of the newsletter. And then I would set a timer for 25 minutes and create a mind map. And then I'd leave it for a day, and then I'd come back and edit the mind map, and I'd have my outline done for my article. And then I dictate the article. Do you see how I've broken it down into micro steps? So the goal, if you like, is map out the content for the weekly newsletter. But if we just did map out content for the weekly newsletter and we didn't finish that in a CFT, well, guess what? Expectations, published letter, actual what we achieved was we got a lot of work done. We did the whole outline, we did a whole bunch of stuff, but we didn't publish the newsletter. No dopamine hit. No release of chemical. No release of chemical means it doesn't become a habit, right? And we want to use all the things that make us take up negative habits, and we want to use all that technology to be able to form the positive habit of being excited to work on our business. So to be excited about working on our business, and this is how we go about doing it. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and here's the goal. The only thing I'm interested here is quantity. It's a competition. I want to see how many steps you can, if you know what your thing is, how many steps you can break it down into, quantity, or if you're stuck, possible solutions. I just want you to go, and I don't want you to judge the solutions. I want you could be radical. You can create stupid things. Like you could go and hire the Chippendales to record a video for you for your content this week. Right? It's an idea. It may be sort of out of reach. I could ask the boys, their personal friends, when I was in the Chippendales. Of course, that's complete rubbish. Hey, my surname's Dale, sort of like the thing, right? But do you see what I mean? I don't care. I want you to be crazy with your possible problem solving. I don't care. I'm after quantity, not quality. Okay, so as soon as I hit the 2-minute timer in the comments or the chat window here, I want you to give me the exact number of steps or solutions. Quantity is the goal. Okay, quantity is everything. Okay, you ready? Pens ready? Let's do this. 2 minutes. Set a timer for 2 minutes. Okay, we are off. So if you're stuck, then possible solutions for start. And here's a little trick, cheater's trick, high quick start trick, is the more you break down your steps, the more steps you have, so the more likely you are to win the game. So I don't care whether the solutions are practical or impractical. Don't care whether your next steps are at the micro level. That's even better. The smallest thing you can break down, it all means more quantity. And that's what I want here. Quantity, quantity, quantity. If you find yourself in your head and saying, oh, no, that's not a solution or nothing, bzzzt, don't do that. Just write it down. There are times for judgment, and there are times where we don't want to judge. This is one of those times. Okay, under 30 seconds. Come on, get as many of those as you possibly can. Go for it. The more bullet points, the better. The 2 points for Gryffindor goes to the person with the most bullet points. 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Pens down. Pens down. Okay, I want in the chat box or here in the comment box, I want to see how many steps did you come up with, or options or solutions. You got 7, 10, 6, 14. Fantastic. 10. Excellent. 4. How good's this? Right? So going from, did anybody have just one? No? See, this is awesome. And one of the powers of this exercise, and something that we do in the academy consistently, is there are exercises that you can do. There are processes that you can do, just like we did here, where we can have a look at a bunch of solutions. Okay, so now what I'd like you to do is I'd just like you to have a look at that list. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pick, if it's a solution, we're going to pick one of those solutions, the one that you think is the best, right? So if it's a stuck and you're stuck, just circle the one that you think is the best. It may or may not be the best. It doesn't matter. Just the one which gut feel. Malcolm Gladwell in his great book, Tipping Point, talks about how in a lot of situations, the gut feel of which decision you should take is the best one. So for the purposes of this exercise, just use your gut feel, use your snap judgment, your instinct. Sometimes the other great trigger that you can use is which is the one you feel the most resistance to, right? Which is the one that you sort of know is the right one, but you don't want to do. That might be the one that you pick as well. All right. Or if you've got the next step, because here's what we're going to do next. We're going to create 2 CFT tickets. So I'm going to take you through creating a ticket. And so when I say ticket, usually we write them on a Post-it note. In fact, my Post-it notes I dropped down here, right? So I write them on a Post-it note. I like the Post-it note because it's about the perfect size to craft a really good CFT session. And there are 2 elements to a good CFT session. One is we know what done looks like, right? So we know that if we say, like Janelle said, their outline for a email newsletter, okay? So do we know what an outline looks like? Like for me, I absolutely know what an outline looks like. It's a, it's a broken down series of steps, so I can just dictate it straight away. Right. So that for me, I know what it looks like. So I know what done looks like. But if a grey CFT is one where we aren't certain of if we don't know what done looks like, how do we know when we're finished? Right. So that's very important. And what we're going to do is we're going to put them in the chat box and the comment box, and I'm going to help you, right, make sure and we refine those notes. You can see here that point number 4 is a 5-minute momentum boost. So what I'd love you to do is there's usually a quick 5-minute task that if you're looking at your unstuck or you're looking at your next step, there's usually a 5-minute momentum builder task that you can do. It might be get your environment right? It might be set up. It might be find the video that I need to watch. It's something that will take 5 minutes. So I want a 5-minute momentum builder, and then I want you to create 2 CFTs, 2 50-minute sessions, right? So it might be, for example, if to use the research example from earlier on, I'm going to spend 50 minutes researching on this Facebook group, pains, gains, and jobs to be done for my market. Or I'm going to spend 50 minutes reviewing Amazon reviews for pains, gains, and jobs to be done on my market, which is an awesome place to do that sort of research. That's going to be the thing. Now, here's the cool thing. Here's where we're going to amp this process up. Once you've done your CFTs, I want you to apply the 3 easy filters to them. So I want you to think about each CFT. What is the environment? Okay, so what's the appropriate environment to do this activity? And it may be at my desk. Duh. Okay, that's great. Fantastic. Nice and easy. Second, have I limited my choices? Right? Have I got one specific way of going forward? Right? How does choice limitation apply here? And then we can say, can we improve that? And third is, do I have a roadmap? And it's quite cool. In a lot of situations, people don't have the roadmap. But here's where we can set our expectations. Then, if you don't have the roadmap, so for example, you're creating a Facebook ad to send traffic to your opt in page, and you've never done a Facebook ad before. Well, guess what? If you say, like most people do, I'm going to spend 50 minutes setting up my Facebook ad, what's going to happen at the end of the 50 minutes? You're going to be extremely disappointed because you don't have a roadmap. You don't know how to do it. So a much better CFT would be, I'm going to spend 50 minutes finding a checklist to set up the type of Facebook ad that I want to do to send people to my opt-in page. And all of a sudden, now you've got somewhere where you can Google and you can say, okay, best way to set up Facebook ads to send traffic to an opt-in page, right? And then all of a sudden, once you've got your roadmap, so finding your roadmap is your first CFT, and then implementing the roadmap, going on the journey, is the second CFT. See how that works? It's so much better. And then when you're starting out, because often when you're starting out, you don't have a lot of roadmaps. You may have a lot of courses, you may have a lot of stuff, but that's all just, that's you've got this huge library and you don't know where to look. So being able to identify the specific book and know the exact Dewey Decimal number, I wanted to be a librarian when I was in school. If you know that, then it's going to make it a hell of a lot easier for you to get started. And if we can meet our expectations in that session, we get a dopamine hit, and then it'll become as addictive as Candy Crush. And imagine if your business was addictive as your favorite food, or your favorite TV show, or imagine. That's what entrepreneurs set themselves. It doesn't mean that it's easy. Like when you're playing a computer game, doesn't mean that it's easy, right? There's many times have you been frustrated learning an instrument, playing a computer game, learning tennis, right? Doesn't mean that the training sessions are fun necessarily. Sometimes I've had some of the least fun, but it's on progress towards a particular step. You have to go through this step. And that's my job on a weekly basis, working with you in the academy, is making sure I'm there with you during those times. Doesn't mean it's all fun and happiness all the time, but it means that you're far more likely to be able to do it, right? So there's less resistance. And if there's less resistance, we'll get to our $10,000 a month. Okay, so here we go, work time. So what I want you to do, I'm going to give you 5 minutes on the clock. You will create a particular task, which is a 5-minute momentum builder, and then you're going to create 2 CFTs using the criteria. What does done look like? Can I do this task that I've set myself inside 50 minutes? Can I complete the task inside 50 minutes? And if the answer is no, guess what? Break it down. Pardon me. Chunk it down. All right, so here we go. I'm going to put 5 minutes on the clock. And then at the end of the 5 minutes, what I'm going to ask you to do is in the comment box or in the chat box is pop in your 5-minute momentum boost and your 2 CFTs that you've created. Okay, let's do this. Okay, here we go. Set a timer for 5 minutes. So, and after the 5 minutes, what we'll do is we will make sure you do this, pen and paper, write it down. If you play along with these exercises, you can have more clarity for this upcoming week than you've had perhaps ever. And you'll have a much more effective week because we've set your expectations at the right level. And if we hit your expectations, pardon me, sorry about that. We hit your expectations, then you are on your way. All right, you've got 4 minutes and 20 seconds. When you're finished, pop your 5-minute momentum builder and your 2 CFTs in the chat box or in the comment box, and I will help you. We'll polish them and make sure that we're setting you up for success for the week. Okay, go to it. Okay, we've got about 45 seconds left. Okay, let's look at some examples here. So we've got finish first CFT, finish course article lesson, marketing research, how to search on Google the right way. For phase one, where my team hangs out, forums. Phase two, look at pains jobs to be done in these forums. So very detailed, very specific. Second CFT, test this article lesson on my own niche and document all the found URLs. Okay, so the only thing there I'd say is that, and it may well be, is are you going to do that in 50 minutes? Is that 50 minutes, or is it going to potentially take longer? So you may want to tweak that CFT and say, spend 50 minutes doing that activity. So that might be something that you do there as a tweak, right? Because if you're not certain that you can do it inside, if you are certain you can do it inside the 50 minutes, fantastic. That is great. Now, there we are. So that's awesome. Let's have a look here. Just turn this off here. Okay, let's have a look. Next one is, so the 5-minute momentum builder, create a Facebook ad image. Excellent. Good one to do that. First CFT, finish Pixel Me tracking, create branding domain, forwarder. There you go. Very specific. Know what to do. If you've got a roadmap, excellent. Now, let's say you needed to do that, but you didn't have a roadmap, then your first CFT would be finding out how to do that. And then the second CFT would be doing that. But in Emma's case, she knows how to do it. Second CFT, create ads, image, copy, and release. So the done will be pushing the turning on the ad, right? So very obvious finish point. So you press that button, off it goes. You get that expectation met. You get that dopamine release. You get that positive momentum building up. And we even amplify it more because in the academy, you have your scrum board and you get to move your post-it note into the done column. So you've got something to look at the end of the week, which is so important. Steve's got here, take 50 minutes to research and systemize setting up Facebook ads. So the way that we would amplify that, Steve, is where? Where are you going to be looking for that? So you may be, for example, because you're an academy member, you would go into the fundamentals workshop library and you can follow along the step-by-step guide of setting up a Facebook ad for if you're going to do lead generation, for example, if that's what you wanted to do. So just again, if you tweak that, so where are you going to research, right? Where are you going to find that checklist, the systemization for setting up the Facebook ads? So that way, that'll give you even more specificity and time. Maybe you don't know, then maybe one of your CFTs could be asking the academy, going to the Facebook group and saying, hey, gang, where I'm trying to do this type of ad, so you can be more specific, right? Sometimes, when you're in groups and stuff to participate, people just say, hey, how do I do this? And you may as well be asking, hey, how do I do a kidney transplant operation, right? It's all over the point. But if you say, hey, I'm looking to do a Facebook ad which collects a lead so I can send them out for the Winter Haven method. Where's the best place for me to find a checklist and a step-by-step guide on how to do that? All of a sudden, you've narrowed down the requirements, you've limited the choices, which makes it a hell of a lot easier for people to answer and you to get a better quality of answer in a group situation. So that's one that is a step. Okay. Sam, 20 minutes Facebook ad headline research, ads in my feed. Very good. Yep. Copy those ones which attract your eye. That's a great thing to do. 20 minutes researching Google on snowboarding and other extreme sports. 10 minutes free writing headlines. Fantastic. So that's a finely crafted CFT. And what I like about that CFT is that you're using timers, right? A big tool for the academy, and you've seen an example of that. We've been doing it all through this lesson, is we've been using timers, because what we know is timers are such a fabulous tool for again, why? Because it limits it provides a limitation. And believe it or not, limitations make things easier, not harder. You think it's the reverse, but it's not, right? It's one of these contradictions in life, right? Is that by limiting our choices, it actually makes our task easier. And so by using a timer, we're applying a time limit to what we're doing, and it actually helps us. It's the master chef principle, right? It's like the mystery box and cook those things in 10 minutes. Very rarely does somebody just not come up with something, because we have to disengage some of our editorial parts of our brain to just get the job done. And that's really important. Okay, 5-minute momentum builder here for Nikki. Check and finalize thread size I'll need to order. There you go. Spend 50 minutes to order the thread, class, and bead supplies needed. Spend 50 minutes sketching out 5 other designs from the collection plan. Boom, love it, right? So there you go. And as long as you've got a track record of doing, 1 sketch per 10 minutes, that sounds like a great idea. And sometimes let's just assume for a second that you're not 100% sure that it's 5. Another key thing that we know here from the academy is that less is more. And again, expectation setting. So if, for example, this was one of the first times that you were doing the design, which is not in Nikki's case, she's a brilliant designer. But let's just say, for argument's sake, you were just starting out and you needed to do these sketches. Then maybe instead of, you think you can do 5, but just say to yourself, I'm going to do 2, right? You think you can do 5, I'm going to do 2. Now, there's no law to say once you've done your 2, you can't keep going. But guess what? Expectation set. If we do our 2, then tick, even though intellectually we think we're capable of 5, if we've written down on paper, and again, this is where the science is, if we've written on our Post-it note that we were going to do 2, you get the dopamine rush. Even if you think you're capable of doing 5, because that's the way our brain works. And that's what makes it so powerful. And that's what I want to bring to you each week inside the academy, is being able to constrict, limit choices, control your environment, give you the roadmap you need, the right place at the right time, and that will help you get to where you're going. And so we make that constant, consistent progress. What we want to have is flow. We don't want to have fits and starts where you work a whole weekend on your business and then you get burnt out and then you don't look at it for 2 weeks. We want consistency. Slow and steady wins the race. I don't know if you saw on YouTube it was a great meme going around where they actually had a turtle and a hare race, and the turtle actually won. It was amazing. Look it up on YouTube. Japanese television. It's so awesome. All right, folks, that is it for today. Thank you very much. We've got a couple of implementation sessions for you coming up, where we all work together for the 50 minutes. They're coming up tomorrow, your time. So join us, get online, and let's knock out 1 or 2 of these CFTs that we've created today. Look forward to doing that, and that will be awesome. So that is fantastic. My daughter saw a floppy disk. Yeah, I saw another great meme the other day, which was somebody's daughter said, "Oh, Dad, you've 3D printed the save icon." They had no idea what the floppy disk was. All right, yeah, there you go. That's the one. All right, folks, that's it. See you later on. Have a great, productive week. Set those expectations right, and we'll build that momentum together. All right, we'll speak soon. Ciao for now.